hit record. So welcome everyone to our bi-weekly Wednesday webinar. Tonight we are talking about riders everywhere, but not a bike to buy. Buying and selling used bikes in a pandemic. Some of you may have picked up on this already, some of you may not have, but if you go into a bike shop today, even if you go into a big box store, you are going to see lots of shelves where bicycles normally would be in inventory, and those shelves are empty. The assembly and manufacturing lines are trying to pick up pace, but a lot of orders right now are a year behind, up to 2 years behind in some cases, which is really unheard of in our lifetimes. So it's an interesting problem if you want a new bike. And we have a solution, which is a new bike to you, otherwise a used bike from someone else. And if you have a bike that you're interested in passing along, it could be an extra bike you have in the barn, or maybe it's because you're interested in upgrading or changing to a different style of bike. And we're going to talk about that tonight too. So what can you do to sell a bike? What do you do to buy a bike? What do you look for? And so on. My name is Eric De Silva, and I work for the Bicycle Coalition of Maine. The Bicycle Coalition of Maine is Maine's statewide voice for education, advocacy regarding bicycling, and pedestrianism. We do events, we do education, and we try to work with infrastructure and municipalities to improve the state of things in this state. Someone actually has a question right now. I've noticed an increase in drivers going too fast. Are you working with the police on this? And one of the things that we do is we actually have a legislative committee, and we get together with a group of police departments every month, and we talk about issues like this. We try to pass bills through legislation, and we actually have a program right now called Slow Me, as in our initials for the state, Maine, Slow Me Down. And you can go to our website, bikemaine.org, and you'll find a link to Slow Me Down. You can sign a petition there. The petition is aimed at helping our governors understand the issue here and to hopefully either change enforcement or change local speed limits, or really the cream of the crop is how do we change infrastructure to naturally calm the speed of motor vehicle traffic. So yeah, we are working on that. If you're interested in knowing more, please email me later, Eric, E-R-I-K, at bikemaine.org. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker tonight. His name is Fred Thomas, and he operates a very interesting business, one that is right at the tip of the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. It's called Frame and Wheel, and it's a business that is in the business of moving used bike parts, used bicycles, frames, and other components around. So I think Fred can talk a little bit more about that. He has a great amount of expertise in this. I'm going to move to another slide really quick, and before Fred speaks, he also has this fantastic YouTube channel, and you can't quite see the full title here, Frame and Wheel. But you can, Fred, please correct me if I'm wrong. If you go to YouTube and type in Frame and Wheel, will you find your YouTube page?
I think, thank you, Eric, first for having me on, and it's great to be in this webinar, and thank you for finding this channel. Wow, yeah, I think if you put in Rideable TV, you'll get to the screen that you've got there. I'm not so sure about Frame and Wheel. A Rideable TV is just the name I use because it's the home of my multiple corporate personalities, which include Frame and Wheel, 80 bikes, and all things bike. So Rideable seemed to sum it all up, and there it all is, right there on YouTube.
And there's a lot of cool content on here. It's not all about buying and selling used bikes. One of my favorite episodes that is on here is about velomobiles. So these are enclosed bicycles.
Yeah.
If you were to take a bicycle and try to make it as close to a car as possible, that could protect you more from elements and from other dangers. There's actually a whole culture out there that is focused on developing these really interesting vehicles. So I don't know how many videos there are here, but there's a lot to go through. Some really cool content. I encourage you all to check that out. So Fred, would you like to speak a little bit more about yourself, and then we can go into the overview?
Sure, yeah. I am the president of Rideable Inc., which is the company that operates the reselling service known as Frame and Wheel. restoration brand 80 Bikes, and the live stream TV show All Things Bike. And I am a New England, Maine-based masters cyclist. I am a creature of the cycling scene here in Maine and around the region. And I've been running this company since 2010. And the thing that keeps me very busy right now is the reselling service. We're the TJ Maxx of bikes, or the Sotheby's of bikes, depending on how you look at it. But those are our two activities. We're selling used or underused or old inventory on our eBay store, which is Frame and Wheel. We're doing that for cyclists, bike shops, bike companies, even nonprofit, cycling-related nonprofit organizations. And right now, it's a very busy activity, just because cyclists, they got too much stuff and they don't have enough time to sell it. We all know that. Or they do, but they get tired of selling the trainers and the dirty cassettes and all that stuff. So they retain us to do that work for them. In bike shops, same thing. They've got handlebars hanging around from the ceiling, and old bikes that just aren't going anywhere. Bike companies too. So that's the primary activity of the company. The other part is 80 Bikes, which is just the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling. It's a Mini Cooper story. It's the brand of bike I used to race when I was a youth. And I pulled the Mini Cooper, and now I'm racing the brand again, the same name, but modern technology. And I even made the team. So these two activities keep me very busy. And then the show is where I just talk about it all and just get out there on the web. So that's me, Eric.
Great. Well, thanks, Fred. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Let's get right into the topic. Sorry, I skipped it there.
Yeah.
So here's a quick overview of the things that we're going to cover this evening. We're going to talk about platforms. That would be the platforms where you're going to either look for a used bike or sell your used bike. Best practices for buyers and sellers. And the top one I would say here is be honest. Be as transparent as possible. Valuation, whether you're buying a bike or selling your bike, what's the right price? And how do you pay for that price, or how do you gather payment from the purchaser? Ideally, you're buying the bike right next door, but a lot of times that bike's going to be coming from afar. And so whether you're buying it from afar or shipping it, how does that whole part work? And then we'll spend some time at the end talking about some questions and giving you the best answers we can. So I think the first topic here is platforms. And Fred, would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, I'm sure. And if anyone's got a question, just make sure you do the chat or whatever, and you'll get it, right, Eric, and let me know. So stop me from talking too much. It's an occupational hazard here. So there are two platforms, as far as I can tell: the local physical one and the online global one. And local physical, you know what it is. It's Craigslist. It's the local Facebook group. It's your friends. I think that's an underused platform. Bike swaps or the bike community organizations. Those are the places where you might be able to buy a bike right in your neighborhood. You might even be able to sell one too, or you certainly would be able to sell one on that platform. Online global is just the eBay resellers, the Facebook groups that are national. And not just regional, and then these sort of global classifieds called Bike Exchange, Pink Bike, where it's just every classified ad for a bike you could possibly imagine. And I suppose the observation that I would make about online global platforms is it's just that you're selling to the world. If you've got a time trial bike, and you're in Maine, it's January, it might be good to use an online platform because there's somebody in Florida or California or Texas or Thailand who would like to buy your time trial bike. Also, those platforms are very regulated, and the transaction is fast. These resellers, they're operating according to the rules of the platform, so they offer 30-day returns, and they ship right away. So these, those platforms will get your transaction done very quickly. If it's, local, just expect it to take longer unless you just find that person who just happens to be there, and it works out. So that's all I got to say about that slide. All right. Oh, am I mute? No, we lost the signal.
Sorry about that. I am on mute.
Oh,
So another platform that's coming right up is the Great Maine Bike Swap. And we had to take a hiatus from this because of the pandemic. We
Yeah.
are hoping to come together and have a version of this that is COVID safe. Look for it later in June, this June coming right up, and it'll be in Portland. So more details to come. Keep your eye out for information regarding that. And Fred, I had a question about some of the content that you showed on the that we were just talking about.
sure.
How do we go about, like, if I'm looking for a bike, or if I want to sell a bike, what should I consider? There was probably 10 very popular platforms out there that are online based. How do I know which one is the one I should look at or spend my time searching if I'm looking for a bike? Or where should I post my bike for sale? Or should I post my bike everywhere?
Yeah, I think if let's just take it. If you're selling and you want to sell to just someone in the neighborhood, basically you don't want to pack the bike and ship it, then it's Craigslist, or a Facebook group. And I think I would recommend Facebook group, because there the chances are you're going to know the person in the group, or that person in the group really is part of a cycling network, and it seems to work. What was the second part of your question? If that's
I guess you kind of answered it in both ways. So if I don't want to deal with a bike that might be too far away if I don't want to ship the bike and I'm a seller, I'm going to choose something local. And if I want to make sure that I can see the bike before I hand over the money, I'm going to look for something local also.
Yes.
So, but if I'm more, maybe desperate would be a word to use, then that's when I go to a global platform. I really want to get this bike out of my space, want to move it on, or I haven't been able to find my bike of my dreams locally. I'm going to actually jump to a more global platform.
Yeah, and that this is the example. In my experience, it's always been related to a time trial bike or a fat bike, and the advantage of a global platform is you've got just such a vast market, and you never know, there might be someone in New Hampshire who wants to buy a time trial bike in January, but you really are broadening the market. I mean, you might think that your regional Facebook group with 2,000 members is big, but compared to the kind of reach that something like eBay or Bike Exchange can give you, they're two totally different things. And really, you just have to break out of the psychic prison of packing and shipping. And if you've got the time to pack up the bike, or you can find someone who'll do it for you, then it might be worth really investigating it. Same thing if you're a buyer. If you really have something exactly what you want, you've been riding that certain model and brand for years, and you really want to ride the same thing again, then you're best off by putting a search on eBay, a notification, I think, so that if something comes up, you get a little notification saying, hey, your Cannondale is there. So yeah, that would be my observation on that.
And maybe one more note is that things like eBay aren't free. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, I think Pink Bike is actually free as well.
Yeah.
A lot of forums are free. But if you want to sell something on eBay, eBay is going to take their cut of, or they actually take, you have to pay a fee even to get it posted oftentimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, you pay, if you're just an individual, you will pay, you pay listing fees and and a whole range of fees, and they take a percentage of what you go. But in return, what you are paying for is a regulated market. The person who is that you're buying from is obligated to ship quickly, make answer the questions easily and quickly if you've got any, to offer a return. I mean, not everybody does, but increasingly, if eBay has become so much more regulated and so much more secure and safe than what we all think it was, you're paying a commission, but in return, you're getting that confidence that the transaction is actually going to go through. And if there is a problem, you will have recourse. If you're on Facebook and Craigslist, you're on your own. There's no recourse. And so that's why if you really can't or don't want to pay a commission, I would go towards Facebook group, where at least the person who you're transacting with is in your network. You might know them, you might know someone who knows them, and that just reduces the risk of a bad transaction.
All right, good points. All right, so before we go to the next slide, I'm going to open up a quick poll for everyone.
Sure.
It's running right now. Let us know really quickly. Are you interested in selling a bike, buying a bike, or both? We kind of tailor what we're going to talk a little bit more about.
Should I answer that?
Yeah. What would I say? I can't actually answer the poll because I'm running it.
I'm interested in selling a bike.
I think I would be interested in selling and then buying.
Yeah. You're a trader.
I like trading, yes.
Day trader.
All right, so it looks like we have, it's pretty even between selling and buying, and we have several people that are interested in both. So we can continue. This is interesting. If you have a specific thing that you need help selling or buying, again, don't be shy. Let us know what that is, and we can actually give you more specific advice. And advice for your specific situation is probably going to help someone else that's paying attention. So don't feel like you're going to be hogging the time away from other people.
Yeah, if you should we have a quiz or something like that, Eric? If somebody answers the question and shows their face, they can win some bar tape or something. I got all sorts of goodies.
Hey, that's a great idea. Do you have a question that you would like to ask, Fred?
Yes. Who is the president of the Bicycle Coalition of Maine?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Anyone? Anyone?
The answer is no one knows this.
Well, I got the internet right here.
We'll give you a moment. And let us know who the president of the executive director.
Oh, we know. No, executive director. That's the next question.
Oh, you're actually asking for the president. Okay. Oh, should we continue talking? And if someone,
yeah, we can continue. If anyone shows themselves and answers the question, then they get some bar tape.
Cool.
Crack on.
All right, so let's go. This is the next slide here. We're going to talk about some best practices. This is, I would say, like one of the most important things, because you can mess up the other things and it might hurt for a little bit, but messing up this part is going to hurt for a long time. And by that, I mean, you're going to be stuck with a bike that doesn't work the way you wanted it to, or you will have sold a bike that someone else is really angry about because it's not what they expected to get.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier on. The key word is transparency. There's nothing really to gain by hiding a defect in the bike, and there's a whole lot to lose just in terms of peace of mind and time and just effort. Everyone makes mistakes in their listings all the time, but if it's in good faith, then people get over it and you work it out. But so that's why I always thought that transparency is definitely the key thing. But being able to communicate back and forth and to not hide behind the digital veil and say and just say, hi, I want your bike, or, it helps to be human a little bit in your communication. Say please and thank you as much as you possibly can. I find that really helps. Even using first names is great if people use them, if the people offer them. Because when the digital veil, people do weird things when they're transacting, or they act differently, as you all know, when you're on a screen compared to when you're in person. So, keep that in mind. And then if you're a buyer, I'll run through the bullet points here, Eric, if you like, and that's know what you're looking for, and in particular, know the size of bike. That's a great starting point. That and have a pretty clear idea in your mind of whether you're looking for a fat bike, a road bike, a mountain bike, and even down to the model and the brand. That really helps clear things, and it helps you zero in on what you're looking for. And so once you find what you're looking for, I think you can see everything in the buyers. You're the buyer. You're looking at a description. You look for the descriptions that are detailed, both in terms of the technical information, the specifications, the brand, the model, the make, the size, the gears, the group set, the wheels, because not only does that tell you everything about the bike, it also suggests that the seller is really genuinely interested in selling their bike. And then that's important, and be sure to read it. Lots of times people see the images and they just stop at the images. They're like, oh, it's got this or that, and they transact, and it turns out that they missed a key detail, like the bike is actually a 9-speed, not 11-speed, and or there's some other sort of just massive oversight that was included in the written description. So and finally, if you're a buyer, it's so hard, but avoid the impulse buy. I think it's just so easy just to execute when you see it, because you think, oh my gosh, someone else is going to buy it if I don't buy it now. I think that's pretty rare. Anyway, that's on the buyer. Any questions on that side before we go to the seller?
How do we find out? What if we want to really make sure that the condition of the bike is as we expect? So the buyer, maybe the seller hasn't stated the condition, or maybe they have stated that something's worn out or isn't worn out. I guess what the options are, we take their word for it. We still want to check if possible. So let's.
I think, descriptions that say awesome, only used once, that sort of use general qualifications like that. Those I think require more investigation, and also they're a little bit of a red flag. That the seller hasn't really zeroed in on it. But I think a condition is everything. For a secondhand bike, the brand, what we find is that the condition drives the price. The brand and the model are sort of secondary and tertiary, but it's just the shape of the bike is the sort of the operating condition is the main thing. And I think visually you just you have to look at hopefully the seller has produced pictures that are meaningful and informative, and you look and you try to see every sort of default you can see, and then you read the description and try and identify every fault that's there. But in terms of the chain, the shifting, and the cables and the bar tape, you're just going to have to take the buyer's word on it, and sort of expect at some level that you're going to have to replace that stuff anyway. That's why that's just part of the reason you're in the secondary market in the first place. So with people who ask me, well, has the frame ever been cracked or crashed, and are there any cracks in it? If they're there, we're going to mention it for sure. We don't really know half the time. We can tell if a bike has been crashed, but it's hard to really know for sure. So all of these uncertainties ultimately just get decided in the price, and information is what drives the accuracy of the information is what's driving the price. So both buyers and sellers can be as transparent and forthcoming as possible. The price will result from that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I generally, when I buy a bike, I like to know that the seller has, like you said, like taken some time to actually present a nice
Yeah.
object that's for sale, cleaned it up. It's
Yeah.
not greasy. It's not covered in like mud. It just looks, they're making it look like a pre-owned, like certified used vehicle, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you sell your house, you usually clean it up. I mean, it's no different for a bike, and it says a lot.
And that also, that can be good advice for the seller as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the number one bullet point for the seller is to clean the item you are selling. And we get so many emails from people who say, "Oh my gosh, thank you for cleaning it." And yeah, I can understand for an individual to clean a crankset. That's just something you don't really want to do. And and that's what we do. I mean, if you've got 10 cranksets that you want to sell and they're sitting in the garage, then you should call up Frame and Wheel and let us do it for you, because without a doubt, you've got better things to do than to clean 10 cranksets. We will just chuck it in our industrial strength washing machine here, and they're clean. But if it's just one bike, you should clean it. I mean, if you're a seller and you got a bike, you should just allocate in your mind some time, 2 hours, 3 hours, just on this transaction. It's just throwing it up on a platform somewhere and hoping someone comes along. You'd be very lucky if that works out. But if you clean the thing up, you're going to see if there are any problems with your bike. You clean it and there's a crack in it, you're going to notice it when you're cleaning. And then once you know that there's a crack there, you just make sure you mention it. I mean, that's the worst case. But maybe if there's an abrasion, you're not going to spot that abrasion if you just take a picture and throw it on a Facebook group. But if you set out to take 12 good pictures of your bike and you take the time to scrub it up and to make it look nice, you're going to pick up all the abrasions in that process. And then you just put those in your description, whether they're, the bad, it's part of the transparency and it's part of the information flow. And the market, they see a scratch on there, they'll say, oh, well, yeah, that's a scratch. Now we know, and the price will adjust. What doesn't work is trying to hide the scratch or try to downplay it, and then it turns out it becomes a surprise for the new owner, and you don't want that. So that's that's the second bullet point. When you describe things, include the good with the bad, and the more information, the better. So the details are important. Is it a 52? Is it 10 speed or 11 speed? And there's a lot of times people just put in the Dura-Ace and people automatically assume it's 11 speed. Dura-Ace was 10 speed for quite a while too. The width of the tires, I mean, these are the things that people always ask for. The width of the tires, obviously just the size of the bike, the width of the handlebars, and all that can be done pretty easily with a tape measure. And use centimeters, because for some reason 21 3/8 it doesn't mean, it means a lot to, I think, the mountain bike crowd, right? Because for some reason mountain bikes are measured.
Right, you're gonna have to use both, because a mountain bike might have 26-inch wheels or 29-inch wheels, or 27.5-inch wheels, and it might have a 2.5-inch wide tire on a mountain bike.
Yeah, exactly.
And globally, that's the way that mountain bikes are defined, are by those crazy inches.
Yeah, and that's right. So I mean, stick to whatever the convention is, I suppose. But for road bikes, it's centimeters, and it's just a little bit easier too to just describe 44 centimeters rather than 17.25 inches. Right. I mean, that's, I think that's the more technical, the better. So I would recommend you just get out a piece of paper and just do the technical stuff first. Just make a list. It's the size, the wheel size, the group, you look at, if you go to the eBay, the framing wheel eBay store on eBay, you'll see, we don't have any bikes up there right now, but you'll see frames and whatnot, and you'll get a sense of what we put in there. And there's also a video on the Rideable TV where I just show you how to measure a bike. You can take a look at that. But stick to the technical stuff, I think, is the way to go. Saying that it's awesome, that it's really light, and that I rode it just for 10 miles, and it may be true, but you can add that in at the end to use those points as your sort of lead selling point. It sort of falls flat a little bit.
The other thing I would say too is that if you have a bike that isn't really exotic or isn't very, very, very old, oftentimes you can go online, type in the bike, the manufacturer, the model number, and if you can find the exact year, which oftentimes you can do on the internet, then you can find a geometry chart that has your bike and the size frame you have. So maybe it's a 48 or whatever centimeter bike, or maybe it's a 18-inch mountain bike, and it's going to have all the geometry right there. So in the past, what I've done is I've copied that chart over, or a lot of times I'll just take the link from whatever that page is and include it in the ad that I'm using to sell a bike.
That's a great point. Some of those geometry charts also are linked to a chart that shows the height of a rider. So it'll say, the 48 centimeters is very small. It's suitable for a rider who's 5 feet and 5'1" inches, so you'll be able, if you know your height, and you can find a geometry chart. You'll have if you know your height and you can find a geometry chart anywhere. Specialized, for example, Giant, they all have geometry charts that have the size and then the suitable rider for it. That will allow you to have a sense of what's the right bike for you as you sort of sift around. But I would also, if you're going to do the geometry in your description, I would type it out, include it, write it yourself, because sometimes just putting a link to a geometry page, it just, it sort of suggests that the seller is just sort of taking the easy way out a little bit. No, I mean, doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, but it's in terms of just presenting. Well, yeah, I know. I mean, you're just trying to present to the buyer, communicate to them that you really have spent some time on the description, and stuff like that is what signals that the effort.
Those are good points. All right, so it looks like Daphne, you have your hand raised. Is that because you have an answer to Fred's question? Who is the current president for the board of directors of the Bicycle Coalition of Maine? You might.
I knew you were gonna. I had to step away for half a second. But yes, I did. Tina West is the president, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Right.
Yay! That means you have a updated website. Win for you.
Yeah, that too.
Thank you for all of this, by the way. I'm happy to hear that the swap's gonna go in June.
Well, us too, and I'm glad that you are looking forward to it as well.
What were you trying to say, Fred?
Yeah, no, you won bar tape.
Oh, cool.
You can have, the only color we have is, I mean, it's great. It's Easton bar tape. I don't know, do you need bar tape?
I don't, it wasn't for the prize I do it. Like, I just wanted you to know people are listening and
that's good.
paying attention.
We have
which I feel like was the point.
Yeah, no, well, we have all sorts of other stuff. You can tell me what you need, and we'll dig it out. We have a lot.
Okay. Thank you. I was just grateful for the question to send me looking at the coalition's board. I live in Green as well, and it looks like one of your board members lives there. And I've recently, been riding around here and just had some ideas for some trails, and wondered if there was anyone else who has had the same thoughts riding some of the roads around here, and like praying for my life.
Well, Daphne, when I send out the follow-up email to this, feel free to get in touch, and I'll try to connect you with a board member that's there, and you guys can chat about some of these ideas, and we can maybe bring them into fruition and get some changes occurring.
Oh gosh, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you. Thank you again. I'm gonna go.
Thank you. Well
I'm-
done.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Daphne. So we had another question that came up about the Portland Police Department, and this is pretty common with larger municipal police departments. They collect a lot of bikes that are left out too long at racks, like they're just sitting at a rack getting rusty for 9 months, or they're items that have been confiscated because they were part of a theft, but then the owner never comes back to claim them. My experience with these is that they, and this is all pre-pandemic, of course, the last police auction I went to was in 2019. They are great places to get pretty bad bikes, but there's also always the chance that you're going to find something really special at them. And there always is some really nice bike there that they just don't know where it came from and they're auctioning it off. So I would advise you to check it out. I don't know when the Portland Police Department is having this, but you can certainly get in touch with them. I know the Bangor Police Department does a similar thing. I don't know what it's going to look like now that the pandemic is in force and we're in this state of no bicycles being available. It might be like a frenzy to buy any bike that's there. So it could look different, or maybe it's not going to look different. But that's an interesting point. So auctions at local police departments are a opportunity to pick up a bike. So I wanted to divert quickly from the topic of selling and buying used bikes to talk about our upcoming webinars. The one in 2 weeks from tonight is going to be about our bodies and the injuries that our bodies take on from cycling and what we can do to prevent those injuries from happening in the first place. And secondly, what can we do when we have an injury and to actually encourage that healing and so we can get ourselves back on a bike and stay comfortable. So there's some physical things we can do, and there might be some things we do with equipment and clothing to enhance the way our bodies are able to stand up to the riding position that we put ourselves in or whatever it may be. And in 4 weeks from today, we're going to be talking about crashes, and particularly why crash reports, these are the things you see on the news or in the paper, they're oftentimes really bad. And by bad, I mean they're victim blaming. They're talking about a pedestrian that crossed in front and got himself hit by a car. And they'll say it's an accident. And these things are really diverting to the way that we give our attention to crashes. It's never an accident, it's always a crash. The car doesn't hit a person. The driver behind the steering wheel is what hits the person. And so why does this stuff matter? So that's coming up in 4 weeks. We'd love for you to attend. This is something that really dives right into our advocacy program and what we're trying to do in the state of Maine. In June, schedule is still to be determined. We're going to have another topic about our bodies and particularly upper extremity injuries, carpal tunnel being something that people deal with, the pressure on this nerve here, what can we do, but also like shoulder injury, and etc. And we're also going to talk about e-bikes. This is like one of the hot things right now. Not necessarily easy to buy, but it is a hot thing in the bicycle world. Electric assist bicycles. These are bicycles with small electric motors. Some of them only work when you pedal. Some of them work when you twist the throttle. I like the kind that work when you also pedal. But these are great for a large variety of reasons. So we're going to talk about that in June as well. If you're interested in knowing more, you can go to bikemaine.org. That's our website. Go to events, click on calendar. And there you will find more information about the upcoming webinars and all the other events that we are doing as an organization. We also post events here that other organizations are doing throughout the state. So if you want to take your children or grandchildren to a bicycle safety rodeo, you can check out the calendar and find one near you. Just an example. So the next topic here is pricing. And this might be the hardest one to get right. But one of the things that Fred and I talked about earlier is that in some cases, you might want to just think about how can I put my bike in the hands of someone else and not necessarily like make the most money, but I'm going to be advocating that someone get into the hobby of cycling or use it because they need a commuter bike. So there are other reasons to think about besides just the bottom dollar. Although that's what a lot of us fall down to for good reasons. So Fred, let us know what you think about pricing.
Yeah, well, I mean, no one wants to leave too much on the table, but on the other hand, people, I mean, I feel fine, giving a good deal to a cyclist, to someone who I know is going to get out there and ride it and enjoy it and use it. Everybody feels that way, it seems. That might be a human thing, but yeah. So you don't want to give it away, but you also want to get the deal done. So the fact is, buyers and sellers are both just wildly optimistic. Everybody, they're just, optimism is what's driving them. But in there somewhere is a fair price that everybody can agree on. And it's going to take some negotiating, some communication. So that's going to be part of the process. But probably the first thing that you can do just to speed things along is just, once you know in your mind what you're looking for, go to those online marketplaces and do a search for your salsa blizzard, whatever it is, because chances are that exact bike sold 20 minutes ago on some platform somewhere, and you can either see the selling, the historical price, or you can see what somebody's offering, and you can take a look at the condition and use that as your first sort of benchmark. I think that applies for both buyers and sellers. If you're the buyer, a very easy thing is just to fix in your mind, I've got $500 and that's all I'm going to spend. And I'm just going to just let everybody know that that's my budget and do it that way. Just, zero in on the condition. Is the bike, has it been, as we talked earlier, you can't really tell, too much from just the description and the images, but usually you can tell if the bike has been loved, and if the owner is a cyclist and taking good care of it. You can just get all that through the description and maybe some correspondence. So that's, or I mean, we if you really want to, you can retain Frame and Wheel to do evaluation of your bike. We do that kind of thing. I think that makes sense when you've got a very specialized performance bike, and we can come up with a market price for you. But I think with those first three things, you'll be fine. And same thing, if you're a seller, be realistic. I've seen bikes go up there on various sites, and the price is just completely out of, just completely removed from reality. And that's because the seller is just hoping to get lucky, that somebody's going to come along and just buy it. It rarely happens, I think. It might happen, but your bike is going to languish up there, and the price is going to be so high that it's going to look silly, and then you're on the back foot, and all you got to do is cut it and cut it and cut it and cut it, and then people will sort of not take it seriously. So be realistic right from the start. And just finally, if you're transacting online and shipping is involved, and you're using a platform where there's a commission involved, try and work out what those costs are and just factor it into your price beforehand. And that way, you'll go into the transaction with good information. You'll know what you can do and what you can't do. How's that?
I think you covered everything really well there. So the next thing is, once you get your price, how are you going to collect payment or pay for it?
Hydrate here. This is like being on the trainer. Yeah, we're running out of time too. I don't want to, we've got 7:48, so we wanted some Q&A here, but the key points there is if you know the person, cash and Venmo is fine. If it's someone you don't know, use PayPal and use the invoice function, goods and services. And that's because if you use those invoice things, goods and services, you have recourse. The funds go into escrow, and they won't be unlocked until the thing arrives and the buyer or the seller is happy. And yes, you pay a commission for that, but in return, you're getting recourse in case of a dispute, plain and simple.
Yeah, that's great. What about checks? Where do they fall into line here?
Yeah.
Are they just not popular anymore?
I don't know. I mean, maybe the younger viewers, I'm not sure they would know what a check is. Maybe, I mean, my daughter just asked me where the check number was on the check. And so, I mean, it's no fault of theirs. It's the technology has gotten to the point where I think no one's written me a check in a long time. And anyone who has is somebody I know. So that would be the I think the best practice there.
Yeah. So I would say I wouldn't want to take a check from someone unless I knew them or had like a really good vibe from them. I'd want to see their match up the check with their driver's license.
Yeah, like your brother or sister.
Yeah, that's very close. Well, hopefully you have a good relationship with them.
I take a check from my brother or sister. I know. I would avoid cryptocurrency. And one final thing, if you're paying, pay quickly. You know, in these transactions, if you finally go through the whole cut and thrust of a negotiation, it's good form to pay right away, and that just keeps everything going.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
so payment is for the bike, and sometimes you're going to have to pay a fee to whatever platform is being used to sell or buy the bike.
Yeah.
Payment is also going to be affected whether it's a local sale where you can meet the buyer face to face,
Yeah.
or if it's something that's going to be shipped and packed. So how does that work? And what should people expect if they're going to have to ship or pack something?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a seller, I think it costs right now. It costs about $150 to $250 to ship a bike across the country, and that is not an oversized bike. That's a regular road bike box. The minute it gets beyond a certain threshold, the price increases dramatically, and that to 150 can become 350 very quickly. So, you know, the one thing I would recommend that we all do in this post-pandemic world is just set up an account with FedEx, UPS, or even USPS, because the minute you have those accounts, you are eligible eventually for discounted pricing. If you just go to FedEx, you walk in the door and say, send this to wherever, you're paying the highest price that's available. But if you have an account, then you ultimately, once you start using it, you will pay lower rates, and then you can start doing clever things like sending labels to people so that they benefit from your privileged rates. So, I mean, if you're the seller, I mean, I just, you know what it's going to cost to ship the box across the country. And I would even recommend putting the bike in the box before you even open the listing. That way, you know exactly how big the box is, how much it weighs. And if you get the deal done, you can send it the next day. If you're not into packing bikes and boxes, bike shops may do it for you. I'm not so sure what they're doing nowadays. I know they're so busy working on bikes, and bike shops, they, bless their hearts, they want to help, and they do ship bikes. It's not their primary activity, so they might just take your road bike and put it in a mountain bike box, which is oversized, and you end up paying for that. I think if they can't do it, just get a box from them, buy the box from them would be even better. And then cut the box down so that your bike fits in there. Again, if you don't want to deal with any of this, Frame Wheel runs a shipping service. We'll just ship your bike for you. You bring it over here, we'll pack it up and ship it and take care of the whole thing. You can sell it on your own. And, we've packed thousands of bikes. It doesn't take us long. If you're going to do it, you basically just have to learn from YouTube and set aside some time and get it done. You could do it, and it's not difficult. It just takes time. So, I mean, that's what to expect if you're a seller, and just if you're a buyer, just have a budget in mind. Know that you're going to pay $150 or more to get that bike from California to Maine. And when it gets to your house, open it up and check it out right away. And make sure it's fine. That's important. So if there's a problem, you can get on top of it right away. But usually it isn't. It's only if you don't pack it properly If you jam it in there without any kind of, padding, you'll have a sad story at the end of it. How does that sound?
What about things, and I just put this in the chat so everyone could see it as well
Yeah.
as hear what I say, but there are some services out there like bikeflights.com and shipbikes.com. When I used to go back and forth and I was traveling, I would use bike flights to get my bike to where I was going because it was cheaper than just walking into FedEx or UPS and asking them to do it.
Oh, yeah.
That-
Yeah. That's
How do
everything.
those services compare to what you recommended, where opening an account with FedEx
I
or
think,
UPS?
yeah, I mean, every time I look at bike flights, it's not as competitive as my arrangement with FedEx, but bike flights uses FedEx. They're sort of a third party feeder of stuff for FedEx. And I think it's less, it might be less than the rack rate. And they might even provide you a box and all that. But I think, shipping is going to be part of our lives from now on. Like we're meeting on Zoom just about all the time now. Shipping is sort of the physical extension of that. It makes sense to get a FedEx account going right now. And if you concentrate all your shipping on one account and at one provider, eventually it's going to get much more competitive than anything you see ship bikes, bike flights, whoever, because you're driving all that business to them and you're building up credits and discounts and all that. But check it all out and you'll find something.
All right, well, I'm going to skip that slide and go right to this one. So
Thank you.
thank you, Fred. Here's a bunch of information in case you want to get in touch with Fred. Fred, where are you physically located?
We're in Cape Elizabeth. We're just south of Portland.
All right, so if
I
you want to get in
knew
touch,
it. Sorry, we were there this summer, and I'm just looking at the background of your background, and I'm just like, that looks just like the bike shop we were at when we were staying at Bailey's and needed a bike fixed.
Really, yeah, who's speaking here? Is that?
This is Daphne again.
Oh, Daphne. All right, hi, Daphne. Yeah. So you were here. I'm sorry, I didn't make that connection, but
no, it's fine. I don't know if it was. Are you the only one who's? It was a weekend, and I don't know if it was you or would it have been another person?
It was. Josh was here. Josh Freeman was. That was years ago. I don't recall unless.
It was a small. It was my kickstand, like the screw for my kickstand. It was such a small part, but it was a pain in the neck. It was fixed, and we picked up our bikes. I think my daughter needed something, or my partner needed something too. But sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. I mean, I love seeing customers in so-called person because it's such a rare thing. But,
it was really efficient. Like we were in a bind. We were, like I said, we were on vacation and trying to go for a bike ride. And I think we needed a tire as well. Someone's tire was all cracked up, and you guys got us out of there in a jiffy. So live endorsement.
Well, that might have been. Well, I'm sure Josh did all the repairs. I'm not very good at repairs. I can take them apart, but I'm not putting them together. And technically, advanced repairs are not my thing. But that's great. Come on back. Come and stop by anytime. I mean, you know where we are. So we got your bar tape, or you just text me we'll find something a little more useful than bar tape. Come on down anytime, Daphne. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Well, does anyone else? We have 3 minutes left. Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to bring up or points that they would like to share with the rest of the participants?
Don't be shy. You got two of the most informed people in the entire cycling community right here.
Yeah, global cycling community.
Global
International. This is a universe, maybe even.
That's right, universe. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's all right. And they know where to find us, I suppose.
Well, my next step is I have a Surly cross check, which apparently they are in hot demand now, and I'm going to try to sell that frame only.
Yeah.
Replace it with a mid 1980s rally road bike. I don't even remember the name now, but a friend offered to sell the frame to me so that I can ride with some bigger, fatter tires on the road bike.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. And we'll see how well that goes. This early is pretty old. It's pretty beat up, but I don't need to get a lot of money for it. Just want to pass it on because I don't use it all that much anymore.
Yeah, no, I've seen those before. I mean, you just never know. I mean, right now we're in a very strange time, and some of these bikes that are old, they have cult followings, and they, you know, you'll make someone really happy by making it available. So just polish it up, make it look good, and ship it quickly.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Eric. No, thank you.
That's it for tonight. So thanks, Fred, for helping really talk about this topic. Thank you for everyone for attending. And all of you have a great night. And enjoy the snow that's supposed to come tonight. At least where I am, it's supposed to snow a little bit.
What?
Yeah, believe
Oh,
it or not. It's almost May.
Well, we'll turn the corner next weekend then.
That's right.
All righty.
Well, good night.
That's great, Eric. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Bye now. Bye.